Introduction to Saint André Basset. I want to introduce you to a remarkable saint, Saint André Basset. Despite standing at just 1.5 meters tall, his impact was immense. Although he was widely recognized during his lifetime, his legacy has faded over the years and is largely forgotten. Saint André had a profound devotion to Saint Joseph, and throughout this article you will learn about his extraordinary life and the rituals he practiced, rituals that you can also incorporate at home to help with your own ailments. Early life and challenges. Alfred Basset, who would later become Saint André, was born on August 9, 1845, in Saint-Grégoire-le-Grand, a small village located 40 kilometers southeast of Montreal, Quebec. He was the 8th of 13 children, though 4 of his siblings died young. Growing up in a poor family, his father worked as a lumberjack while his mother managed the household and cared for the children. From a young age, Alfred faced significant hardships. His father tragically died when a tree fell on him, leaving Alfred just 9 years old. In the wake of this loss, his mother found solace in the teachings of a priest who spoke about devotion to Saint Joseph. Reflecting on this time, Saint André would later say that despite the difficulties they faced, his mother always wore a smile. Alfred was frail and often in poor health, which led to a close bond with his mother. Even as a child, he was deeply pious, surprising those around him with his frequent prayers. However, fate dealt another blow when, at the age of 12, he lost his mother to tuberculosis, leaving him an orphan. This loss was particularly hard to bear, as his mother had been a source of gentleness and love. To honor her memory, Alfred developed a strong devotion to Saint Joseph. He was taken in by an aunt, but due to their poverty, he could not attend school. Nevertheless, he never missed catechism, and the priest who taught him was impressed by his piety. Saint André Basset remained largely silent about this period of his life, likely due to the bullying and mockery he endured for being small and frail. Despite living in poverty and experiencing profound loneliness, he never complained. He was often found kneeling in prayer in a quiet corner of the barn, arms crossed before a crucifix. He remained helpful and courageous, taking on difficult jobs. At 18, he traveled to the United States to work in the cotton mills of New England. After 4 years, his fragile health forced him to return home. Alfred then took on various odd jobs, struggling to find his place. He eventually stayed with an uncle in Saint-Césaire, where he met a priest named André Provençal. Alfred was so inspired by this abbot that he spent all his free time at the church. Although he remained discreet about his experiences, he would later share that he received many great graces during this time. Devotion to Saint Joseph. In a remarkable turn of events, Alfred's demeanor began to change. Previously shy and reserved, he started to speak to parishioners with great gentleness, encouraging them to pray more to Saint Joseph. Unfortunately, this newfound boldness earned him contempt, and he was often mocked for his small stature and deep devotion to God. This treatment deeply troubled Abbot Provençal, who recognized Alfred's daily piety and his unwavering efforts to be good despite the cruelty he faced. The abbot believed that Alfred had a true vocation, but he also understood that Alfred's lack of education and fragile health would prevent him from becoming a priest. Fortunately, a new congregation had been established in Montreal that accepted lay brothers, individuals who dedicated themselves to manual work rather than spiritual tasks. However, Father Provençal was concerned about Alfred's health and education. He wrote a heartfelt letter of recommendation, stating, "I am sending you a saint." Path to religious life. On November 22, 1870, Alfred Bessette entered the novitiate and took the name Brother André in honor of his protector, Father Provençal. He quickly proved to be an excellent novice, obedient and eager to take on tasks. He worked diligently to overcome his health issues and avoid being dismissed. While the Father Master had no complaints about him, the superiors worried that Brother André's health would soon become a burden to the young community, which had little need for sick religious. Consequently, they refused him vows on January 8, 1872. This news devastated Brother André. Shortly after, a smallpox epidemic broke out, causing widespread fear. Sensitive to the plight of the community, Brother André suggested a procession with the statue of Saint Joseph. The superior agreed, and miraculously, the epidemic was overcome just 2 days later. Despite this success, Brother André was still expected to leave the community. An unexpected opportunity arose when the Bishop of Montreal planned to visit the congregation. To everyone's surprise, he granted an audience to Brother André, who opened his heart to the bishop. In return, he received the promise that the community would keep him. Shortly thereafter, the council reversed its decision, concluding, if this young man becomes incapable of working, he will at least know how to pray very well. In early 1872, a French priest named Father Hupier arrived to oversee the lay brothers. He was a model of penance, gentleness, and charity, and he quickly recognized Brother André as an exceptional individual. For much of his life, Brother André had been dismissed as foolish or crazy, but Father Hupier reassured him that his love for God and devotion to Saint Joseph were not flaws but blessings. He offered Brother André invaluable advice that would stay with him throughout his life. Father Hupier encouraged him to fully dedicate himself to God's will, emphasizing that true freedom comes from submission to divine guidance. This understanding brought Brother André great joy, as he finally felt understood. Sadly, this support was short-lived. Father Hupier passed away on July 4, 1873. The day after his death, Brother André dreamt of him, where Father Hupier asked, "What prayer could I pray that would be most pleasing to the good Lord?" He began to recite the Our Father, repeating the phrase "Thy will be done" 3 times before the dream faded. On February 2, 1874, at the age of 29, Brother André took his perpetual vows and was assigned as the doorman of the new Notre Dame College on Côte des Neiges in Montreal. He humorously remarked, "My superiors kicked me out, and I stayed there for 40 years. Being a doorman was no simple task. He also served as a gardener, maintained passageways and visiting rooms, janitor, doing the community's laundry, running errands, giving cheap haircuts to students, mending shoes and garments, and later also sacristan. He was the last to go to bed and the first to rise, embodying dedication and refusing to shy away from any task. When time was short, he would finish his work at night. You might think this life of labor would make him unhappy, but the opposite was true. Those who met him found him consistently cheerful. Brother André never missed an opportunity to share a joke or a pun, which endeared him to both teachers and students alike. Now, let's explore the miraculous healings attributed to Brother André. The exact beginning of these miracles is unclear, as Brother André was quite discreet about them. However, the first documented miracle involved a brother of the congregation named Olderic, who suffered from a severe knee injury that had become infected. Brother André reassured him not to worry, and astonishingly, the healing occurred the very next day. He went on to heal many students, treating fevers, toothaches, and various injuries. Word of his miraculous abilities spread, and more patients began to visit Notre Dame College, seeking the brother known for his extraordinary gifts. Among the visitors, some entrusted their illnesses to his prayers, while others invited him to their homes. Brother André would pray with them and often give them a medal of Saint Joseph, reflecting his deep devotion to the husband of Mary. One of the methods he used to heal involved a statue of Saint Joseph at the college. Brother André would place a small container of oil at the statue's feet, consecrating it to Saint Joseph. This oil could also be taken from a lamp burning in front of the statue. He advised the suffering to rub the oil on their ailments with confidence and faith. For those unable to travel, he suggested using a medal of Saint Joseph at home in place of the statue. He believed that consecrated oil could work miracles, but he always emphasized that faith was essential for the oil to be effective. Depending on the patient, he recommended that these applications last for hours and be repeated over several days. Many witnesses have testified to being healed or relieved through this practice. Brother André operated under a logic that often eluded understanding. He sought to fulfill God's will and sometimes healed individuals from a distance without their knowledge. He referred to himself as the instrument of Saint Joseph, consistently deflecting praise for the healings. When people attempted to glorify him, he would respond, "It is the good God and Saint Joseph who can heal you, not me. I will pray to Saint Joseph for you." Brother André remained true to his principles, not seeking to publicize his actions, yet he did not hide them either. His superiors were well aware of his reputation, which grew to the point that the number of patients visiting the college became overwhelming. Concerns about contagion arose, and parents of students began to complain. Consequently, the college leaders decided to prohibit Brother André from receiving sick individuals on school grounds. He accepted this decision without complaint and began meeting those who sought him at a tram shelter located in front of the college. Initially, the tram company was hesitant about these gatherings, but as the number of paying passengers increased, they turned a blind eye, recognizing that Brother André's fame was beneficial for business. Desiring a space for greater devotion to Saint Joseph, Brother André ascended Mount Royal, where he placed a statue for public prayer. As the number of patients continued to grow, it became necessary to arrange the area. Brother André sought to have an oratory built there, but the costs were prohibitive and he faced resistance. Years passed as Brother André tirelessly requested approval from his superiors for the construction of an oratory dedicated to Saint Joseph. Eventually, he received authorization to build a chapel. The college management and the Archbishop of Montreal stipulated that the costs would be the responsibility of the applicants. Thanks to spontaneous donations, both monetary and in kind, such as statues, vases, liturgical vestments, and a bell, the land was acquired, and the sanctuary was inaugurated on October 16, 1904. Although it was a small chapel for Brother André, then aged 59, it was a significant achievement. However, as the crowds continued to swell, the influx of pilgrims necessitated 4 expansions of the chapel between 1908 and 1912. Ultimately, a project for a basilica was initiated, beginning in 1924 and concluding in 1967, resulting in the 3rd largest oratory in the world at the time. The construction of the oratory. In mid-July 1909, the authorities of Notre Dame College took over the administration of the oratory, making Brother André its guardian and finally freeing him from his role as doorman. However, life was not without its challenges for Brother André. Despite the miracles and countless healings, he faced detractors, particularly among doctors and clergy. He was often ridiculed, labeled an old fool, rubber, or old greasy person. Journalists sometimes published sarcastic articles about him. Brother André endured these misunderstandings with grace, remaining steadfast in his mission. To illustrate the impact of his work, let's explore some testimonies of healings that demonstrate the extraordinary events surrounding him. Brother André frequently offered hope to students and encouraged them. One day, a former student approached him. "When I was little, you took me to the mountain to pray to Saint Joseph. Of course I remember you. I'm not well. I had an accident and the doctors want to amputate my leg because of gangrene. I came here in a small invalid's car pushed by my father. I thought you, Brother André, could heal me." "Me? No, definitely not. But Saint Joseph certainly can. By the way, you can sell your invalid car, it will no longer be of any use to you." Brother André took him to a separate room and asked him to wait and pray until evening. When he returned, he began to rub the boy's leg with a medal of Saint Joseph while praying. Before the boy's astonished eyes, the leg, which had been black and swollen, returned to its natural state. The young boy stood up and walked. The doctors who examined him later were baffled, as they had decided against amputation because his leg was completely healed. Sometimes, Brother André healed people from a distance without any direct intervention. When he was a doorman, he always greeted parents visiting the students with kindness. One day, he noticed a man whose gait and dark expression revealed deep concerns. He approached him and asked, "How are you, dear sir?" The man barely acknowledged him, replying, "What does it matter to you?" Brother André smiled and said, "What a bad character. Oh, I'm sorry I spoke to you like that. But you know, I'm concerned about my wife. She hasn't left her bed for years, and the doctors say there's nothing more they can do for her." Moved by the man's words, Brother André paused for a moment before responding, "You know, I don't think she's that sick. Besides, she is waiting for you to give her news of the children. Ah, by the way, I forgot to mention, she is completely healed." The man looked at Brother André, unsure of what to think. Yet, he returned home filled with a hope he couldn't quite understand. Upon entering his house, he was speechless to find his wife standing before him. "What happened?" he exclaimed. "I was in bed, and then I heard a voice saying, 'You are cured, get up.' I immediately asked the nurse for help, and I was able to walk without difficulty. I feel restored. It's such a joy." The husband, questioning his wife, realized that her healing had occurred precisely during his conversation with Brother André. One of the most incredible miracles witnessed by many occurred during the construction of the large oratory dedicated to Saint Joseph on Mount Royal. A worker suffered a severe accident, with his legs crushed beyond recognition. Upon hearing of the accident, Brother André rushed to the site. He found the man screaming in agony, and a doctor present recommended immediate amputation, stating there was no hope for recovery. Brother André calmly replied, "This worker worked for Saint Joseph, so Saint Joseph will take care of him." The doctor, familiar with Brother André's reputation, acknowledged that he could treat minor ailments but insisted that the man's condition was hopeless. "Listen, my brother, Saint Joseph will not be able to do anything about this. We must hurry if we want to save this man." With unwavering calm, Brother André retrieved a medal of Saint Joseph and gently passed it over the worker's legs. Miraculously, blood began to flow, and the muscles and bones reformed. The skin healed, and the man stood and walked, astonishing everyone present. Challenges and detractors. As time went on, Brother André needed a chaplain to conduct daily masses at the Mount Royal Chapel. He reported this need to his superiors, but they responded negatively, stating that no one was available for the task. André then mentioned Father Adolphe Clement, who was losing his sight and could only read very large print. Despite the objections, Brother André insisted, and Father Clement was sent to him. "My dear brother, I am honored by your trust, but as I've explained, my eyesight is deteriorating, making it impossible for me to assist you." "Don't worry," André replied. "I promise you through Saint Joseph that from tomorrow, you will be able to read as you should, and you will be able to say Mass daily." To Father Clement's astonishment, when he awoke the next day, he found he could read clearly and was able to assist Brother André. Number 9. Final years and legacy. By the end of 1936, Brother André traveled to New York to seek a donation from billionaire Rockefeller to complete the basilica's construction. Sensing that his time was drawing near, he wished to return to Montreal. On December 28, he was admitted to Notre Dame de l'Espérance Hospital in Saint Laurent. On the evening of January 5, he succumbed to his suffering. At midnight on January 6, 1937, Brother André took his last breath at the age of 91. The news of his passing spread rapidly. In the United States, around 30 newspapers reported on his death, with no fewer than 860 articles published. People traveled from far and wide to pay their respects to Brother André. Special trains arrived from Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Vermont. Many even flew in, including a pilgrim from San Francisco whose son had reportedly been healed by Brother André. A New York millionaire made daily trips to Montreal by plane for 8 consecutive days, even after the funeral, bringing 4 or 5 people with him each time. Immediately following his death, a mold was taken of his face to preserve his likeness, and doctors extracted his heart for safekeeping. During the first 2 days, over 500 firefighters and 500 police officers ensured order in the crypt where Brother André's body lay in a chapel. A few years later, his body was interred in a black marble tomb within the St. Joseph Basilica. Canonization and impact. On October 17, 2010, Brother André was canonized by Pope Benedict XVI in Rome. To conclude with a poignant quote from Saint André Basset, "When I am dead, I will be returned to heaven. I'm going to be much closer to the good Lord than I am now. I will have more power to help you." Let us remember his devotion to Saint Joseph and the sanctified oil he used. It is essential to understand that without faith, everything is in vain. In today's world, we often hear that hope is lost, and many lament from morning to evening. As we reflect on the life of André Basset, let us hold close the words of Jesus Christ from the Gospel of Matthew, "If you had faith like a mustard seed, nothing would be impossible for you."